Yeah, so this is session number 22, and we are going to discuss verse number 21. And there is going to be one important, not important actually, something different that we are going to discuss today. So far, we have been discussing two I. One is the small I, that is the Jiva, and absolute I, that is existence, consciousness, or Brahman. And today in verse number 21, we will discuss another eye, the third eye. Okay, so let's start with background. Like this text, Upadesh Saar, is Upadesh to Karmakandis or Mimansis who had a great faith in actions and happiness through action. So the action produces results, and on getting the result, we get happiness. So according to them, action is supreme, and it is me who's doing action. So God has no role to play in all this. So for such people, Mimansis or Karmakandis, and to a great extent, we are also Karmakandis because all the time we are busy in one action or the other. And if you really think about it, the purpose of every action is for happiness. So this is for us as well. And Lord Shiva wanted to give them an Upadesh that actually, what we are looking for is infinite eternal happiness, and the results of any action is not going to give us this everlasting happiness. It can give happiness, very small happiness, and that too only for some amount of time. So Bhagavan tells us that, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi tells us that only knowledge can liberate us from the sorrows of this world forever. So, what is the problem? Let's see. The basic problem of the root of this sorrow is ignorance about the
It's very
self.
bad.
I don't know who am I, and that from there the problem begins. So, I wrongly associate myself with this limited
Given
body, mind,
that
and intellect.
self is a bit minus increase.
Hello, Ushaji, can you please mute yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So, from ignorance leads to wrong understanding about myself. And since I identify myself with this limited body, mind, and intellect, and this is based on superficial understanding about myself, and because of that, there is an inherent feeling of being unfulfilled, and that leads to sorrow. So, how do I make myself fulfilled? So, there is a desire to become fulfilled, and from there, we develop all kinds of desires for the world because we feel that if I have to make myself fulfilled, I have to acquire the objects of this world, acquire the titles, the positions of this world, and then only I can become fulfilled. So, how do I acquire these objects of the world? And that is only through actions. So, since I am unfulfilled, the only way I feel to become fulfilled is expansion, and we try to achieve this expansion through actions. And results of action give only temporary and finite happiness. So basically, after every action and after getting the result of that action, we are back to square one where that feeling of being unfulfilled returns. So, what do? We undertake more actions, and with every action, we actually strengthen these desires for the world, and at the same time, we also create karma phala. And in order to exhaust this karma phala, we have to take birth again and again. So, essentially, more and more actions lead to getting us deeper and deeper into this bondage of world or bondage of samsara, and we never become fulfilled, so the actions continue. And this is what is explained by Bhagavan in the first verse, and that's why Bhagavan says the solution for this is self knowledge. Know who you are, and you will realize that you are already fulfilled. There is no need to depend on this world for your happiness. And so, actually, there is no need for any action for happiness. So this is the background. So if self knowledge or realizing who am I is the solution, then how do we go about it? So there are three problems of the mind. The first is in all our births, we have harbored these desires, and some of them get fulfilled, and majority of them don't get fulfilled. And that is what is mala, or the vasana stains on the mind. And in the shloka number verses 1 to 3 of this text, Bhagavan talks about karma yoga, and the purpose of karma yoga is to remove all these vasana stains. So essentially, achieve chitta shuddhi through karma yoga. So this way, verses 1 to 3. Then the other problem of the mind is it is always agitated. We are not able to, or we can say, we find it very difficult to focus the mind on a particular thing. So the solution for this is we need to quieten the mind. And verses 4 to 10 tell us about bhakti yoga, which is a sadhana or which is a means to quieten the mind. Then in verse number 11 and 12, Bhagavan tells us about how to tune the body and the mind. Because if we have to undertake meditation for long period of time, then body needs to be tuned, because body has to be still for a very long period of time. And we are also like trying to quieten the mind. So Ashtanga Yoga tells us, like essentially the pranayama in that tells us like how we can quieten the mind for a short period of time by controlling the breath. But that is not the permanent solution, because it is, we can quieten the mind only for a short period through these means. So what is the way to permanently like quieten the mind? It is like jnana yoga, like we have to know who we are. And that is what is discussed in verse number 13 to 16, which is primarily nididhyasan. And Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi uses a different technique to actually like remove this ignorance, and that is through inquiry. And we discuss this in verse number 17 and 18, where we analyzed our mind. Mind is basically a flow of thoughts. So what are these thoughts? And verse number 19 and 20 tells us like how to kill the mind itself. Okay, so Bhagwan has a unique approach. One approach is to start with like to understand that mind is a problem, and mind has these problems of vasana and agitations. And Bhagwan's unique approach is, instead of solving this problem, like try to find out what this problem is. And when you understand what this problem is, inquire what this problem is, the mind itself disappears. Mind is permanently destroyed. So this is what is 19 and 20. And the exact method of inquiry we will be discussing in the next session. So like just a revision of these last three verses, like when we analyze this mind in order to prepare for this inquiry. And what is this inquiry? We need to understand, and we will understand through analysis of mind. So when we analyze the mind, our first impression is this mind is full of thoughts, and all the time it is generating one thought or the other. But on closer analysis, we realize that all these thoughts are primarily worldly thoughts, and this is called idam thoughts. Like when I am exposed to any object, the thoughts about that object keep cropping up in the mind, and that those are the idam thoughts. again, like the deeper analysis tells us that there is a substratum or the base of this thought, and that is only one thought, that is I am. So when I see a chair, the thought is I can see that this is a chair. So every idam thoughts, there is it arises out of this I thought called aham thought, and there is only one thought, I am, and I am experiencing all these things. So there are lots of idam thoughts, but only one thought, aham thought. And if you really look at your own experience, as soon as I get up, there is that I thought, I. And then, like, all the other thoughts start creeping up. And so that is the I am thought, which is only one thought. So even though mind is full of idam thoughts, there is only one thought which creates this idam thoughts. So, what is impure mind? As long as this mind is impure, and what is impurity? It is full of these idam thoughts. That is impure mind. And even if we have lot of sattvic thoughts, like thoughts about the scriptures or thoughts about God, even though those are sattvic thoughts, that is also a sign of impure mind. So when, like, the only way to kill idam thought is by observing that particular thought. But there are too many idam thoughts and they keep cropping up. So if we try to kill these idam thoughts in order to quieten the mind, it's going to take time. And actually, the objective of meditation is to observe the I thought. That is not going to be fulfilled, because lot of time will go only in observing idam thoughts and killing those thoughts. So if we have to kill this aham thought itself, and that is what is Bhagwan's prescription, then we need to purify the mind. And we already saw how to purify the mind: karma yoga and bhakti yoga. And so when the mind is purified, the meditation will be effective, and the inquiry also will be effective. And only pure mind can actually inquire into aham thought and destroy that aham thought, to destroy the ignorance and realize who am I. So when we talk about this destruction of the aham thought or destruction of the mind, then one gets scared as to what happens to my identity. Because this I thought, like, we have nurtured that thought over our entire lifetime. And if it is destroyed, then what happens to me? That is the question. And that was answered by verse 20 by Bhagwan. And it says, when the ego is destroyed, the self, which is the supreme infinite existence, shine forth of its own independently as I. So this is the second I that I was talking about. The first I is my own understanding about myself, and that is like my family, my possessions, my titles, and it is a small I. And then Bhagavan says that when this I, small I, is destroyed, we realize that actually I am Satchit Ananda, the infinite eternal, and that is always there, but it shines very brightly when the first I is small I is killed, because it is the first I which prevents us from realizing who I really am. Okay, so one need not be scared about, like, getting this small I destroyed, because once that I is destroyed, I know what is my true nature. Okay, so this is just to explain that, like, my higher nature is infinite, eternal, uh, and I am myself happiness. But when I get wrongly identified with this body, mind, and intellect, and this happens because of ignorance, and the properties of body, mind, intellect, it's inert, it's finite, it decaying and dying. And when I identify with it, there is ego arises, and that is what is this aham thought. the small I thought, it borrows the properties of existence and consciousness from Brahman, and at the same time, it borrows the other properties, inert, finite, decaying, and dying. And that's why the nature of this ego is sorrow, the feeling that I am unfulfilled, and that is what is ego. So, through sadhanas and through inquiry, when we kill this aham thought, the ego, like all the other attributes also go away. I realize that I am this Brahman, and the entity that is the Jiva, which has all kinds of problems living in this world, that ego itself is dissolved, the entity having the problem is dissolved, and then the big I, the absolute I, is starts shining. It was always there. The only thing is, because of our ignorance, we didn't realize it. And that is what this shloka tells us. So this is revision. And okay, now we are going to discuss verse number 21. But there is some introduction. So, Chanda, can you please read the introduction before
Yeah,
shloka 21? Yeah.
yeah, all right. The true self. In order to grasp the meaning of the following verse, it is necessary to comprehend an important fact. Till now, we saw two meanings of the word I, the pure self and the ego. This sense of I-ness is felt only in our body and not in objects or beings outside the body. When this I notion is in the body alone, man becomes extremely selfish. When his identification expands to include his family, clan, society, state, and nation, then to that extent his selfishness reduces. The joys and sorrows of the family and successes or failures of the country become his joys, sorrows, successes, or failures. However much one's field of identification may expand, it is impossible for a limited ego to identify with the entire cosmos. The being that identifies with the totality has the I notion in the entire cosmos. This is the third I called Ishvara, the Lord. Identifying with the total, he has no selfishness and is therefore impartial. Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi shows us the interrelation of these three I's.
Okay. So here the third eye is discussed, and I was saying there is always this feeling of being incomplete. So the materialistic way of expansion is by acquiring the objects of the world, and like however whatever actions we take, this I, whatever it expands, is still going to be finite, because one plus one plus one cannot become infinite, and what we are trying to do is trying to become infinite. So that is the materialistic way. There is another way that is discussed in this paragraph, and that is through identifying with bigger and bigger groups. So initially it's only I, that is myself. Then, like, we expand it to include our family. We may expand it by including the society, we can say. We can expand further by identifying with the state, by identifying with the nation, and that is one way of expansion. And still, after this, we realize that I am this finite being, and there are many of these finite beings in this world, finite beings and finite objects. So, there is totality, and the small I that we saw, like we have been discussing so far, is Jiva, but there are millions of these Jivas, and there has to be an entity which is required to maintain this totality, and that is what is called Ishvara. Okay, so here the concept of Ishvara is introduced for the first time, and that is the third eye. First eye is the small eye, the Jiva, and then we discussed about the absolute eye, which is infinite, eternal Brahman, and this is the second eye, you can say, in between, uh, which is like Ishvara. Okay, and this concept is again discussed in the commentary of this verse. Let me first chant this verse. Idamaham padaabhikhyamanvaham ahamileen ke pyalaya sattaya. Okay. So some Sanskrit words, idam aham pad. So this I word, aham is I, and abhikhyam, and this I, like the indicates the self, and anu aham, following the merger of individual I, the jiva, total I also merges. The total I here indicates Ishvara, ahami leena ke api. And then what happens? Alaya Sattaya shines due to indestructible nature of it. What shines? The big I, the absolute I shines. And this is the meaning of this shloka. Following the merger of the individual I in pure consciousness, the total I also merges. And this self, which is known as true I, shines due to its indestructible nature. Okay, so let's just read this commentary. Chanda, can you please read the commentary? Just
Yeah,
one para.
yeah. The pure self, when identified with an individual body, is called the jiva, the individual ego, and when identified with total conditioning, it is called Ishvara, the totality. The same water is called a wave and the ocean due to individual and total conditioning. The concept of totality exists only with the reference to the individual. That is to say, that the Jiva and Ishvara enjoy the same degree of reality. With the destruction of the individual ego, the concept of totality too merges into the pure self, free from all conditionings, individual and total. This pure self, even though called Aham, is really nameless, formless, and indestructible. The self is ever existent and never becomes non existent. Only with the thought, I am the body, the notion of an individual, the world of objects, emotions, and thoughts, and the concept of totality arises. The pure self remains indestructible even when the notions of the individual, ego, and totality merge. The water remains when the wave and ocean notions perish. That is, the wave and ocean are known to be only names and forms superimposed on water.
Yes. So the example used here is of waves and ocean. So actually, the absolute reality about an ocean is water. It is whatever we see only water. The wave is only an illusion created by a form. Like water in a particular form is called wave, and we give it a name as wave. So wave is nothing but an illusion created by name and form, and uh, millions of waves that we see on an ocean is the totality, and this set of waves, the millions of waves that we see, we give it a name as ocean, but the actual reality is it's only water. So, wave as well as ocean is an illusion in the sense that it is this illusion is created by name and form, and the base substratum of this both is water, and water is the reality. So we will understand this example in terms of jiva and the world with this diagram. Okay, like this is the jiva, and like we have the lower nature, which is only an illusion, because we keep discussing it is all Brahman here. The body, mind, and intellect is nothing but manifestation of Brahman, and it's only like from the name and form, like that illusion is created, and which is our lower nature. and it is body, it is limited, finite, unfulfilled, and because of limitations we experience sorrow, and we also see millions of these jivas around, that is the world, and that creates fear, and the sense of being unfulfilled gives rise to desires, because of which we take actions and we get into a bondage. And since I consider myself to be this body, mind, intellect, that is, I identify myself with my lower nature, when I see around, my focus is on the lower nature of the world, which is again different names and forms, and these two are limited and finite. So, with this sadhanas and with all these spiritual sadhanas and through inquiry, when I realize my higher nature, which is consciousness, which is Brahman, I realize that I am Sat Chit Ananda, and I also realize that whatever I see around, that is also Brahman. But since I consider myself to be a small entity, the jiva, the body, mind, intellect, when I look at this world, I am also focused on its lower nature. But this world itself is nothing but manifestation of Brahman. And when I realize this, like I no longer identify myself with my lower nature, and at the same, and because of that, the world also, like when I realize that it is only a manifestation of Brahman, the world also cease to have any impact on me. Hello, and some okay. So, like the world also, and along with it, the concept of Ishvara also goes away. I no longer feel any limitations. There is no fear about me versus others, because I realize that the self in me, my higher nature, is same as the higher nature of everybody else. So there is no more any fear. There are no more desires and actions, and there is no more bondage. Okay. And since we are discussing this concept of Ishvara, it also it also tells us about one very important concept in Sanatan Dharma, not concept, the vision. It is called Darshan Shastra in our scriptures, which talks about different kind of relationships that one can have with, like there are three entities. I am Jiva, then there is this world, the Jagat, and there is Jagadishwara, or in short, Ishvara, who's creator of this world as well as is the creator of myself. And there are different philosophies relating to these three entities. And yeah. Okay, let's first summarize these three eyes. So we know first eye, the smallest eye, is identified with body, mind, intellect, and it is Jiva. Then there is an I which is identified with the totality, and it's called Ishvara, which is also the creator, sustainer, and transformer of this world. And then there is absolute I, which is absolute reality, the substratum. So if we compare this example of waves and ocean and water, then I identified with body, mind, intellect, we can say is a wave. It is essentially water, but when it identifies itself with a particular form, it is a wave, and it is the similar to Jiva. Then the one identified with totality is the ocean, which we have already seen, and the absolute reality in this case is water, and that is substratum and Brahman. So there are three entities now: the Jiva, the Jagat, and Jagadishwara. And like as I was saying, in our in Sanatan Dharma, there is this there is this vision or it is vision, or it is called Shastra, Darshan Shastra, as to how there are different philosophies describing these three entities. And uh, like this is also like we can understand about this three philosophies through this Hanumanji's view of Rama. Once Lord Rama asked Hanuman, "How do you see see me?" And Hanuman says, "Deha buddhya tu dasosmi." So Hanuman says, when I identify myself with my body, I am your servant. Jiva buddhya tvadanshakaha. When identify myself as individual jiva, I am part of you. And when I atma buddhya tvamevaham. But when I identify myself as Atman, Satchit Anand, I am same as you. And in this opinion of I am very certain about my opinion of you. So yes, three different opinions about Rama. Okay, one is like as a jiva, he is a servant of Bhagwan, of Lord Rama, and he says, when I identify myself as individual jiva, I consider myself to be part of you. And when I identify myself with absolute I am nothing but you yourself. Okay. So these are three different philosophies or Darshan Shastra I was talking about. And it was Madhvacharya who came up with this philosophy of Dvaita, which essentially means there are two different entities. I am one entity is myself, and the other entity is Bhagwan, and two are different, and that is what is called Dvaita, which means two. And this was propagated by Madhvacharya. The next is like I am only a part of Bhagwan, part of God, and that is called Vishishta Advaita. So this doesn't refer to two entities. According to this philosophy, even though it appears to be two entities, me and Bhagwan, I am only a part of Bhagwan. So that's why it is called Vishishta Advaita. And this was propagated by Ramanujacharya. And it was Shankaracharya who came up with this philosophy of Advaita. There is no other, there is only one. And as when I consider my higher nature is nothing but Bhagwan. So in that perspective, I am God. And there are different darshan shastras in our scriptures, and that is basically vision of God according to different philosophies. And it starts with the lowest one, which is called Charvak. According to this philosophy, what I see only exists, what I don't see doesn't exist. So, according to this Charvak philosophy, God doesn't exist, and purpose of my life is to get happiness by any means, and that is what is Charvak philosophy, which is lowest, one can say. And then there are these other philosophies, Dvaita, where I consider myself and God to be different. Vishishta Advaita, where I am part of God, and Advaita, which is like my nature, higher nature, and Bhagwan's higher nature is same. So essentially, I am Bhagwan. Okay, and like in Bhagavad Gita shlokas, there are three shlokas which also talk about this philosophy. So this is shloka number 11 from chapter 4. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tanstathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanuvartante manushyaः partha sarvashah. So, meaning is in whatever way people surrender unto me, I reciprocate accordingly. Everyone follows my path knowingly or unknowingly, O son of Pritha. So, this says that in whatever way, whatever vision one has about myself, I present myself accordingly. And when Bhagavan says everyone follows my path knowingly or unknowingly. So here Bhagavan is saying, knowingly or unknowingly, everyone seeks me. And here seeks me means Satchit Ananda. So everyone is seeking expansion, everyone is seeking happiness, and unknowingly, everybody is seeking this absolute reality, the Satchit Ananda. That is what is the meaning of this shloka, meaning of this second line rather. And the first line is like we had discussed this concept of Ishta Devata, like one needs to have a personal God, and Bhagavan says like this personal God we can choose based on like what we are trying to, the particular qualities that we want to have within ourselves. In a way you can say role model. So Ganesha represents buddhi, the intellect. So if we are seeking intellect, our Ishta Devata will be Ganesha. If we are seeking Vairagya, it will be Shiva. If we are seeking wealth, then it will be Lakshmi. So Bhagavan says you can worship me in any form, and I will appear to you, and I will bestow these qualities to you based on what you are seeking. Okay, so this is first. So this is uh, the Bhed, like the first one, Dvaita philosophy. I am Bhagavan are different, and I am seeking Bhagavan through different means or different idols. Then there is this verse number 7 in chapter 5, which talks about Vishishta Advaita. ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनःषष्ठानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति. So Bhagavan here clearly tells that the embodied souls in this material world are my eternal fragmented parts. So he's talking about you all are my ansha, my part, but bound by material nature, they are struggling with the six senses, including the mind. So, because of ignorance, and since this my sense organs are always extrovert, you are like struggling in this world. So, this talks about Vishishta Advaita, like it appears to be two entities, but I am only a part of Bhagwan. And this is the third philosophy which is talked about in this shloka number 20 of chapter 10. Aham atma gudakesha sarvabhutashaya sthitah ahamaदिश्च मध्यम च भूतानामन्त एव च. O Arjuna, I am seated in the heart of all living entities. I am the beginning, middle, and end of all beings. So here Bhagavan says, I am seated in the hearts of all living beings. So essentially, your higher nature is nothing but myself. And so this talks about the Advaita philosophy. There is only one entity, Bhagavan, which manifests itself in all these forms and beings that we see around us. Okay, so since we introduced a new concept of Ishvara here, we will watch one video. After a long time, we are going to watch this video of Swami Sarva Priyananda. Okay, so let me share this video. Sorry, I should have there. What happened? Sorry, let me get back to this. I'm already sharing. Sorry, what happened? Okay.
I have been exposed to Vedanta for several years through Swami Dayanand Saraswati.
Right.
And I happen to be going through right now a very challenging time in many areas of my life. And I feel like this is the perfect time for me to understand how my mind can sit with my knowledge.
Yes.
And so I intellectually know, I understand, and I totally understand that this, Swamiji used to say, let your mind do what it does, what does it matter?
Yes.
And I understand that. But emotionally, I have never been able to have a real relationship with Ishvara because I think of Ishvara as the order, good and bad, not just good. So I want to know, at this time, it feels like an opportunity to have, how can I have a real solid, lasting relationship with Ishvara? I want to understand it, both emotionally and intellectually.
This is a very good question, and the answer is there in the question itself. The question was that I have received a thorough training in Advaita Vedanta by one of the greatest teachers of Advaita Vedanta in the recent past. And but right now I'm struggling in life. I have many problems in life. So I want to use this occasion to understand how all the knowledge that I have gained, how my mind sits in relation to that knowledge. So that's a very good point. Whenever we feel we have learned this, we have absorbed this teaching which claims to remove our suffering, and yet we have suffering, we run up against problems, that's a good time to sit back and fine tune, see what is working and what is not working, where is the lacuna in my understanding, in my practice, what more can I do, what is missing. And then she said, I have never had a deep relationship with Ishvara, with God. For me, God is the order of all things good and bad, but never really a personal relationship with Ishvara. That is the answer to the question also. It might seem like two different questions. Why suddenly bring in Ishvara? But that is the answer to the question. The knowledge is perfect in itself. You are limitless existence, consciousness, bliss. From that perspective, there is no problem. And yet the mind cries out. The heart cries out sometimes. That existence, consciousness, bliss, clothe it in a name and form of Ishvara. For you, it could be Shiva, it could be Krishna, it could be Ramakrishna, it could be Jagannath. For a Christian, it could be Christ or the Father in heaven. And establish a personal relationship with it. I remember 10 years ago, I asked one of the greatest living monks in our order, senior most, he is very, very senior now, I will not take his name, he is 98, 99 years old now, very remarkable spiritual teacher. So I took the opportunity, I got some time with him, so I took the opportunity just to ask him in passing a question. That once you have clarity and conviction about non-duality, you have it. What more remains? Does anything more remain? Then he said, immediately, without even giving it a pause or thinking it, he just said, now establish a personal relationship with that reality. How? Let that be the master, I'll be the servant. Or that could be the friend, it could be my friend. Or it could be my father or mother, I could be the child. Or I could be the father or the mother, and that could be my child. Or the mutual loving relationship. So, or a peaceful contemplative relationship of the presence of Ishvara in my life. Realizing that you are Brahman, and all this is Brahman. All of them are Brahman. They are all you. We are all you. And all of this which we see, including that body, including the personal life of Nidhi, is basically you shining forth. Realizing that, now bring that into your life in a personal way. Call it, now give it a name. Call it Shiva, Kali, Durga. Swami Turiyanandaji, one of the greatest non-dualists in our tradition, he used to say, after realizing that you are Brahman, now know that everything that happens in the rest of your life, it is all your life and everything in the universe, it is the mother. Everything. Whether you like it or dislike it, it's the mother. And this whole universe, all our lives is a play of the mother with you. You are the daughter, this universe is the mother of this universe. The underlying reality of Nidhi and that mother is Nirguna Brahman, which is always there. It's always there. So spend the rest of your life in this play with the mother.
What should I do practically?
Yes, establish a devotional relationship. I will not say in which form, that depends on you. Whatever you are used to. Are you used to Shiva? Are you used to Ganesha? Whatever form.
I think I have always rejected the idea of an anthropomorphic God, and that is my difficulty.
Yes, but remember, you are a person. You are a person. And you can conceive of the divinity as a person. So conceive of the divinity as a person. Vivekananda himself says, I am convinced that there is in this universe a power which considers itself female and itself as the mother of this universe. So that's the mother, the divine mother, Kali, Sri Ramakrishna's Kali. Establish a personal relationship with it. There are two ways of doing this. Keep your Advaitic knowledge in the background. That's always there. That's fundamental to it. Without that, we have nowhere to stand on. So that's there. Now there are two attitudes now. Again, Turiyanandaji is of help here. He says, when Vivekananda said I, he meant all of it. It was a cosmic I. He included everything in it. But Turiyanandaji says, that does not come so easily to us. So we say, thou, you my mother. Having realized that Brahman is the reality and I am that Brahman, now, because you are speaking in terms of Nidhi, not in terms of Brahman, the challenges that you are facing, is limitless existence, consciousness, bliss facing the challenge? No. It's Nidhi who is facing the challenge. That limitless existence, consciousness, bliss as Nidhi can establish a relationship to that limitless existence as Ishvara, as Bhagavan, as mother, as father, whichever appeals to you, as friend. How do I know? Take it on faith. Take it on faith. So many great people have taken it on faith, the presence of God. You will feel it soon enough. And there is a saying, Bodhat prak dvaitam mohaya. Before enlightenment, duality, separation, it leads to delusion, samsara. Prapte manishaya, once enlightenment comes, I am Brahman. Bhaktyartham kalpitam dvaitam, advaitadapi sundaram. The imagined, visualized bhakti, devotion, based on Advaita. Why would you visualize or imagine? For the sake of devotion, for the sake of love. I visualize that. A separation between myself and that limitless reality. Nidhi, whose reality is that limitless reality, I am now devoted to that reality as my beloved Lord, in whichever form. He says, Advaita dapi sundaram. It is more beautiful than non-duality. It's more beautiful than non-duality. Hanuman is the greatest of Jnanis. Hanuman is the manifestation of all four yogas. Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga and Karma Yoga. He says, Srinathe Janakinathe Abheda Paramatmani Tathapi Mama Sarvasva Sri Rama Kamalalochana. Srinatha, Vishnu, Ishvara, Bhagavan, Saguna Brahman, and Janakinatha, Ramchandra, who is the avatar. They are one pure consciousness, I know. Abheda Paramatmani, and I am that pure consciousness also, I know. There is one Brahman, I know that. However, it is the lotus-eyed Rama who is everything for me. That is bhakti speaking. Jnanis, you have a taste for jnana, this is grace. This is the great grace of Ishvara. That even your taste for jnana, your taste for Advaita, Avadhuta Gita starts that Ishvara anugrahadeva pumsam Advaita vasana. It is the special, the greatest blessing of Ishvara that you have a taste for non-duality. And that Ishvara you love and surrender and talk to and pray to and tell all your heart to, pour out your heart to that. Make it concrete. Have an image or a picture, an altar. Know that Nirguna Brahman, like Hanuman, say, I know you are pure consciousness and I am pure consciousness and we are one. However, I love you. I adore you. I worship you. I pour my heart out to you. You are in charge of everything in this universe. Classical Advaita Vedanta does not deny Saguna Brahman. Yes, thank you.
Very nice, ne? It's amazing. Very nice. Very, very good.
Yeah. So, like, one of the things I realized is our understanding is in order to purify the mind, we need to develop devotion or bhakti. But what he says is even after you realize who you are, you need to have that bhakti going.
Very nicely explained. Thank you, Miraji. Very nice.
It is great. He
I
concludes,
have,
Dvaita
I
doesn't
just,
contradict Dvaita.
Yeah.
I just want to ask one thing. In one of the sentences which you had put, it said even if the thoughts are sattvic, if it is continuously there, it's an impurity of the mind. Karke.
Yeah.
Suppose
Because
the great bhaktas and all, they must be, but that, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't connect
finally
actually.
those thoughts also have to go. Because if
Okay.
your goal is for self-realization, realizing who you are, if your goal is just to love Bhagwan, then it's all right because the goal itself is different. And actually, that is what is the goal of bhaktas. They are not interested in self-realizing who you are and all that. They are just interested in serving Bhagwan. So they actually want to maintain this duality. They don't want to merge into Bhagwan also. Okay. And like
But
he
then
also
that will
said,
give rise to punarapi janaram, punarapi maranam, na?
no, not really.
Not
Because
really.
not really. Because once you realize who you are, then like you are no longer like you realize that you are happiness yourself. So you are not dependent on anything for happiness. So no actions, so no karma phala, and all your accumulated karma phalas are also burnt off.
No
You
desire
don't.
also.
Yeah, you can say it's only for transactional purposes because we also discussed that there are three types of these nannies. One just go to Himalaya and live life in seclusion. So that is another. But if you have to live in this world, you need to have some purpose to live in this world. And the purpose can be serving your Ishta Devata.
As you said, Virat, Hanumanji is the typical statement he made. He knows I am you, but I want to be here in the world because I want to see your glory and sing your glory.
Yes, yes, yes. Very nice. Hanuman is a good example.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let us conclude with prayer. ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिद पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम ओके या
Yeah, thanks a lot, Viraj. It was a very good session. And good night to everyone. We
Good
meet
night.
next week.
Hari
Yeah.
Om.
Thank you, Virat.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Great.
Raji.
Hello.
Great.
It's Bhumi's daughter. She wants to say something.
Hari Om, sir.
Hari Om. So continuing with your Antakshari practice. No, busy with studies, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.
Good night.